when one dishwasher amazingly transformed the millionaire chef's laughter into shocked silence. The kitchen buzzed with the clanging of pots and pans, the air thick with smoke and tension. Emma maneuvered her way through the chaos, hands submerged in soapy water, scrubbing plates that had held culinary masterpieces. She often wondered what it would feel like to be on the other side of that kitchen, to be part of the laughter and not the scorn. It was merely a fleeting thought, buried beneath the daily grind and the soulful laughter of her children, still echoing faintly in her heart, but when the prestigious cooking competition was announced, a flicker of intrigue ignited a spark inside her. Thousands of dollars were at stake, money that could lift her family out of this punishing cycle. She could almost hear her grandma's gentle voice whispering to her, urging her to share her gift. Emma felt hope for the first time in years, but there was also the chilly sensation of doubt. What if she was only setting herself up for failure, as her boss, Chef Marco, slung mockery her way, joined by the laughter of the elite chefs, the weight of their derision fell heavily upon her. A dishwasher? You think you can compete with us? His saccharine voice dripped condescension, and the others responded eagerly, the echo of their laughter tightening the knot in her stomach. Each chuckle felt like an echo of her own buried dreams taunting her from the shadows. Emma shook her head, bitterness brewing. She was just a dishwasher to them, a ghost flitting through their pristine world, unworthy of acknowledgement. Yet something larger than her fear whispered that she had a chance, that hidden in the depths of her heart was a craving for a life. She had almost forgotten the savory aromas, the explosions of flavor, the joy that only creating food could bring. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just then, the chaos of a malfunctioning dishwasher flooded her thoughts. Water rushed across the slick floor, the cacophony of panic and urgency filling the air. Emma watched as the chefs floundered, ingredients spoiled in their wake. An instinct deep within her erupted, driving her to take charge. Stepping forth, she seized forgotten vegetables and daily spices, weaving them together like the threads of her grandmother's recipes in her mind. Her hands flowed with purpose, transforming such chaos into something extraordinary. The shock on the chefs' faces spoke volumes, their laughter stilled, replaced with astonished eyes glued to her every movement. Emma's heart raced, a conflicting swirl of exhilaration and trepidation. She was exposed, vulnerable, yet thriving in their disbelief, but just outside the doors of ambition, her children confronted a sudden crisis, their puzzled faces filling her thoughts as she fumbled to balance between ambition and motherhood. And amid her desperate worry, that tattered family cookbook, left behind by her late grandmother, appeared like a guiding star. It reminded her of who she was, who she could still become. Yet, this dance with her family legacy pulled her in conflicting directions. As the competition loomed nearer, Emma found herself wrestling between carving out a new path for herself and the pull of her responsibilities. Her mind spun. Would risking everything really yield a brighter future, or would it leave her fractured? The laughter of the chefs lingered in her ears like a haunting melody, envisioning their disdain merging with an unquenchable desire. She stood at the precipice, caretaking dreams, feeling turmoil twist within her as the countdown to finality whispered in her ear. The morning sun poured through the kitchen windows, stealing warmth from the tallowing shadows and illuminating the stark tension that hung in the air. Emma stood before her old, battered countertop, the familiar weight of the family cookbook anchored against her palms. Each page cradled within, carrying the essence of her heritage and the whispers of dreams long suffocated. Yet today, they ignited a lingering ember of ambition. She was determined to seize every opportunity offered by the upcoming competition. Time slipped through her fingers like grains of sand, and as she gazed at the recipes she had once dismissed, a thought crystallized. Her grandmother had poured her love and spirit into these pages, infusing them with magic that could reshape her own destiny. Maybe the laughter of the chefs had morphed from mockery to admiration. Perhaps, for once, she could choose to believe it. Emma dove into the recipes, her fingers practically dancing over the parchment. Memories of her grandmother's guiding hands flared to life in her mind. Each ingredient, each seasoning, each technique beckoned her to explore further, to tap into her own creativity. Still, doubt clawed at the edges of her resolve. The chefs whose laughter had haunted her thoughts now inhabited her aspirations. How far could she push herself? In the delicate balance of motherhood and ambition, her children were her heart but also a tether. She glanced at the kids playing in the corner, laughing, oblivious to the conflict raging within her. The taste of freedom danced at the back of her mind, taunting her with visions of success while guilt coiled tightly around her chest. Was it selfish to dream when the stakes of her family weighed so heavily on her shoulders? Emma inhaled sharply, grounding her thoughts. She began sketching out a plan while balancing the weight of her children's needs. The sun continued its ascent as she orchestrated her vision, concocting an unforgettable dish was her goal. Each day leading up to the competition would involve tireless practice, endless testing of flavors, and, most importantly, refining her own identity as a chef rather than merely a dishwasher. Days turned into nights, each filled with the intoxicating aroma of spices mingling with the laughter from her children. Still, there were moments of doubt when the chef's condescension echoed in her mind, urging her to retreat. Emma would smile and shake her head, reminding herself of her grandmother. The spirit of resilience dwelt in those pages and in her heart. Yet, the more she studied, the more she realized she was grappling not just with recipes but a renewed sense of self-worth. There was an artistry waiting to emerge from the depths of her insignificance. Her Thursdays turned into trials that forced her to face the unknown, revealing flavors within herself she never knew existed. Just when she felt a breakthrough approaching, the lilt of her son's laughter turned into wails. Frantically, she rushed toward his room, fearing some unseen calamity. The chaos of motherhood crashed into her aspirations, a puzzle whose pieces were now scattered, blurring her focus. She held him close, the warmth of his tiny body grounding her, but soon questions surged back. Was she ready? Would the chefs silence their ridicule when faced with a dish born of resilience and love? The imminent competition loomed, and as uncertainty clouded her vision, an alarming thought struck her: what if they valued experience over potential? Emma pulled back and stared into the depths of her son's eyes. They showed only faith. Their bond cradled the weight of her aspirations. Her decision had to be made: stand tall or shrink back. Would she emerge as the chef buried beneath a sea of doubt, or would she ascend, bold and unyielding? The battle was far from over, but the stakes were higher than ever. The night before the competition, as doubts clawed relentlessly at her, a single thought emerged: the moment had come to face her reality. With trembling hands, she turned to the cookbook, ready to carve a new path despite the waves of uncertainty crashing against her resolve. The morning air was thick with anticipation and the lingering fragrance of her late-night cooking ventures. Emma set an early pace, inhaling deeply as she immersed herself in the preparations for the competition. Each smoky, savory scent was a signal that she was forging a new path. She punctuated her meticulous chopping with moments of introspection. These interactions with her ingredients were now channels for her aspirations, transforming simple tasks into acts of defiance against herself. Doubt. As she whisked together sauce components, a vision unfolded in her mind of herself standing before the panel of judges, their incisive gazes piercing through her but softened by the discovery of her culinary prowess. For every flicker of ambition, a shadow of uncertainty followed, questioning whether she could truly stand up against the esteemed chefs. Could someone so steeped in dishwasher duties step onto the elevated stage of culinary creativity? After a flurry of chopping in sizzling pans, she paused to cool down her racing heart. Feeding her children breakfast was coiled within her routine, yet now, it felt like an interlude, a necessary balance between her burgeoning identity as a chef and her cherished role as a mother. With every spoonful of cereal she served, she whispered affirmations to herself in the quiet moments between their chatter. The resolve nestled deeper within her, pushing back against the gnawing doubts that surfaced whenever she assessed her skills against the backdrop of culinary expertise. Then came the early afternoon, where the kitchen transformed into a testing ground for her ambitions. Emma had chosen to marry flavors from her grandmother's treasure trove of recipes with a contemporary twist. Mediums of heat mingled with tender care as she tasted relentlessly, calibrating her ingredients with precision. The confidence she had been weaving into her practice began to bind her heart to her hands, empowering each measured sprinkle of salt, each coaxing turn of the spoon, but as the transformative elements of the day began materializing, her sense of accomplishment was encircled by the constricting sensation of disbelief. What if she miscalculated? What if the dish she assembled with such love fell flat in momentary indifference? Emma shook her head, dismissing the encroaching dread with a reminder of the moment when her son had looked up at her, full of untainted faith, that evening stretched out before her, a blank canvas upon which she would project her fears and aspirations. As night draped its curtain over the day, she revisited the family cookbook, its pages now adrift with familiar textures but hauntingly distant in meaning. Emma's fingers sifted through the fragments, searching for the foundational comforts of flavors that shaped her childhood. Yet, an aching realization settled in: it was time to depart from imitation. A murmur of a new identity beckoned her, urging her to elevate the ordinary into the extraordinary. With a jolt, she grabbed her notebook and began documenting her culinary ideas, artistry fused with personal touch. She crafted, not out of obligation, but igniting her creative spark that had flickered dimly for so long. Ideas flowed freely, rapidly morphing into sketches of dishes intended to stun the judges into silence. The furious scribbles marked her emergence from a wash of doubt to a buoyant embrace of talent. Hours slipped away under the weight of conviction, but as she finally prepared to rest her eyelids, clarity washed over her. The specifics of the competition receded into the backdrop of her aspirations. She wasn't just the dishwasher pursuing chefs. She was poised to express a vibrant legacy, yet, just as she felt her thoughts crystallizing into a firm resolve, a text blinked across her phone screen from her estranged sister: "I heard you're competing. You know that chefs want to take you seriously, right?" The message hung in the air, a reminder of the ridicule she had attempted to bury. Time froze for a heartbeat as her confidence teetered back towards the edge. Would she really silence the laughter or hear it echo once more? Emma's breath quickened, doubt worming its way back into her chest. The competition might be tomorrow, but today was the time to decide. Would she scramble back into her shell, or rise with fierce resilience? Emma stared at her phone in disbelief, her sister's words slicing through the fragile cocoon of determination she had woven. The doubts she'd fought so hard to suppress began to rise once more, relentless and insidious as a tide eroding the shore. Could she truly forge ahead, or was she destined to fall short in the face of judgment? Taking a measured breath, Emma pushed her phone aside, the weight of her sister's skepticism still clinging to her thoughts. Instead of sinking into despair, she leaned into the kitchen, the sanctuary she had created, steeped in the aromas of her creativity. The familiar sounds of her bustling daughters filtered in from the living room, grounding her as she stirred her thoughts. She needed a plan. This competition was not just a hurdle, it was a chance to redefine who she was. The message from her sister felt like a haunting echo, but it also ignited defiance within her. Emma walked to the counter, scanning the ingredients strewn about. Each item held promise, and with deliberate intent, she began to craft a new dish, one that reflected her essence rather than mimic the past. That in her practical notebook, she scribbled ideas, her thoughts racing faster than her pen. The earlier sketches morphed into something more profound, infused with her personal narrative. A dish inspired by her grandmother's comforting warmth yet vibrantly modern, a culinary representation of transformation. This fusion of identity would be her statement against the doubts cast upon her. Emma meticulously selected fresh herbs, noting the tangy citrus that would surprise the palate, the earthy joy of roasted vegetables that would ground her dish, reminder of home. As she worked, her thoughts began to crystallize. She wasn't just cooking. She was reclaiming her voice, transforming legacy into innovation. Each ingredient felt like a step toward clarity, a declaration of her newfound confidence. Her daughters wandered into the kitchen, drawn by the fragrant offerings. They peered over her shoulder, curiosity shining in their wide eyes. "What are you making, Mommy?" one of them asked. Emma paused, smiling down at them, her heart swelling with resolve. "Something special for tomorrow. Want to help?" The task transformed into a bonding experience, her fears dissipating amidst laughter and shared moments of creating the dish. Emma felt the energy shift. This was her arena, a place liberating enough for her to take risks. As they chopped, mixed, and stirred together, she felt each interaction reinforce her conviction, her children's innocent enthusiasm casting shadows over the self-doubt. That night, after tucking the girls into bed, Emma found herself in front of the stove once more. Windows thrown open, the night air swirled in, carrying the comforting sounds of the neighborhood. She felt empowered, the confidence coursing through her veins like an elixir as she toasted spices on the stovetop, their fragrances spiraling into the room. This was her moment. Every dish she created was not just about flavor but a statement, underscoring that she was an artist in her own right. Yet, amid the bustling joy of creation, she contemplated her sister's jibe. What would the judges want? The competition loomed on the horizon, a battleground where she would showcase not just her culinary skills but also her resilience. She thought of the professional chefs who shaped her fears, a coalition of voices she had yet to face, the critical gazes mingling with her personal aspirations. As sleep beckoned, her notebook rested open beside her, half-formed ideas lingering like dreams waiting to be realized. She felt the anticipation tingling on her fingertips, coalescing into determination. How would she walk before that judging panel and uphold this newfound identity? Tomorrow would be her reckoning, and she would embrace it fully. In the stillness of the night, she sensed the weight of the moment pressing in, the line between success and failure blurring with the echo of her sister's voice. It wasn't merely about winning, it was about standing firm in her truth and channeling her voice into every dish. With dawn signaling the beginning of the competition, Emma sealed her notebook with resolve, her heart pulsing with urgency. The time had come to confront the laughter with her own brand of confidence and silence any lingering doubts once and for all. What awaited her would not just be a chance to prove herself, but an opportunity to become the chef she never knew she could be. With the sun's first rays breaking through the horizon, Emma knew today was pivotal. She stood in her kitchen, revisiting her dish one last time, as the familiar scents enveloped her like a warm embrace. The quiet hum of the world outside and her tranquil surroundings fortified her spirit, even as the tremors of anxiety lingered in her gut. Each tick of the clock echoed with the urgency of the approaching competition, pulling her focus back to the task ahead. Her culinary creations were the culmination of late nights and fierce determination. Today was the day to showcase every ounce of skill, passion, and resolve she had forged. She could practically feel the weight of the judges' eyes scrutinizing every move she made. Would they judge her dish through the lens of her past failures or appreciate the journey she had undergone to arrive here? Emma meticulously inspected her ingredients, ensuring everything was in perfect order before she reached for her trusty knife. It gleamed under the kitchen lights, a symbol of both challenge and opportunity. The moment she began to chop her vegetables, a flow state consumed her, the rhythm of the task hypnotic. She couldn't afford to dwell on her fears or the shadow of her sister's disbelief. Instead, she focused on the layers of flavors, the vibrant colors, and the harmonious balance she aimed to create. Her mind wandered briefly to the faces of her daughters, their laughter echoing in her memory. They believed in her authenticity, their unwavering support igniting a flicker of courage she hadn't hoped to find. As each ingredient fell rhythmically on the cutting board, she embraced a powerful realization: this isn't just about the competition, it's a reflection of her growth, her voice in a world eager to silence the timid. The clock was ticking down as she moved into plating, every decision intentional and profound. Emma was no longer just a mother in her kitchen, she was a chef declaring her presence, anchoring her identity with every choice. With each layer added, she felt the weight of her sister's skepticism dissipate, replaced with a driving force to honor not only her lineage but to carve out her own path. However, doubt crept in like a dark cloud as she caught a glimpse of the judges arriving, their posture assertive and their gazes critical. The tension in the air charged her heart with adrenaline. As she stood before them, the simmering anxiety erupted inside her, countered only by the clarity that she was about to share something deeply personal, a piece of herself through food. She presented her dish, her voice steady as she spoke about the inspiration behind it. Each description carried echoes of her grandmother's kitchen that once reared her, entwined with her personal story of resilience and passion. When the first forkful reached the judge's lips, time seemed to freeze. every moment stretching into eternity as she watched them. Would they choke on laughter or express astonishment? The silence was deafening, but in this moment, she could see the flicker of intrigue as they savored the first bites. Their eyes widened, brows furrowing in concentration, and for the first time, uncertainty filled their expressions. This wasn't the recognition she had anticipated, it was something more profound. Emma stood taller as they deliberated. Deep inside, she recognized a primal truth: she had maneuvered through insecurity and emerged transformed. But just as she felt the swell of victory, one of the judges spoke up. "This is unexpected, it defies classic expectations." The implications of the statement hung in the air as Emma prepared for the unexpected twist of confrontation. She had laid everything on the line, her past resonating with her present, yet the judges were not the only critics she had to face. A sudden pang of anxiety tightened her chest. How would they respond after the initial surprise? And could the profound revelations they'd brought forth about her cooking truly silence the laughter of past judgments? As she awaited their verdict, awareness washed over her: no matter the outcome, she had stepped bravely into a space fraught with potential, redefining her definition of success. A moment trembled at the edge of resolution, but what awaited her next remained shrouded in uncertainty. Emma now clutched the reins of her fate, yet the real challenge was yet to unfold. Would she emerge from this experience as the chef she envisioned, or would the specter of self-doubt reclaim its hold? The deliberation stretched painfully, each second punctuated by the ticking clock on the wall, mocking her impatience. Emma fought the urge to sway, her heart pounding in her chest as she processed every expression from the judges. It was an emotional tightrope, and she kept replaying their faces, wondering what they truly thought. Had her dish resonated with them, or was this a polite mask overlaying their skepticism? Emma's thoughts danced between hope and anxiety as the lead judge finally cleared his throat. "Your dish is intriguing, yet, how do you envision it fitting within the traditional framework of culinary competition?" His words struck like a lightning bolt. She paused, realizing the challenge she faced was not simply about winning, it was about defending her approach to cooking. The question hung heavily in the air, as the other judges nodded in agreement, their expression taut with expectation. Her hands felt clammy, but a sudden clarity burst forth. Cooking is not merely about adhering to traditions but pushing boundaries, evolving flavors, and sharing a story, she declared, her voice steadying. "This dish is a fusion of my past and present, just like I am a blend of experiences that honors where I came from but celebrates where I'm going." A flicker of surprise crossed the judges' faces, and Emma realized she had asserted herself not just as a chef, but as someone worthy of consideration. Each word became a stepping stone, laying a path toward her identity. She saw the shift in their demeanor, an acknowledgement of her sincerity, a crack in the armor of doubt that had surrounded her. It gave her the courage to continue. "Cooking for me is an act of vulnerability," she continued, "and I wanted to share that intimacy with you through this dish. It's how I connect with my daughters, with my own fears, and with the past that shaped me. I want to ignite a conversation about authenticity in cuisine." The air thickened with intensity, and as she spoke, she felt a shift within herself. Emma was no longer appealing for validation, she was asserting her right to belong in this highly competitive world. It was a daunting experience, confronting critics not only of her food but of her very essence. A multitude of emotions converged into a single moment, the judges exchanged glances, and it felt like a pivotal crossing point. Would they acknowledge the relevance of her journey, or would tradition stifle innovation? Emma held her breath, feeling the weight of this moment, not just for herself, but for every aspiring chef who feared rejection. Finally, the lead judge leaned forward. "Your passion is commendable. However, to truly push the limits of our expectations, you need to dig deeper into that personal narrative. It's your greatest asset and potential weakness." The implications of this suggestion resonated profoundly. She was urged to explore the depths of her creativity and challenge her culinary approach further. This was feedback, not judgment. It was mastery beckoning her to rise to a new level, to embrace not just the culinary but the emotional aspects of her work. As she stepped back, a surge of motivation ignited within her, igniting a new trajectory for her culinary journey. The moment was more than about the dish, it was a moment of self-discovery. She had to ask herself, was she ready to venture even further into her own narrative? The validation was palpable, yet the path ahead was still obscured in fog. Realizing that her journey was far from over, Emma understood she couldn't shy away from her vulnerabilities. It was time to embrace them completely, even if it meant risking more than she had ever considered. Despite the warmth of possibility, uncertainty still loomed large. The challenge she faced was not just about winning the competition, but mastering her art in a way that held true to herself. Feeling a renewed sense of purpose, Emma gazed into the distance. What would be her next move? Would she redefine her culinary identity boldly, or would she fall back into the comfort of familiar flavors? In this moment of revelation, it was clear her journey was just beginning. The real question remained, was she prepared to confront the culinary world's laughter with her unapologetic voice? Emma stepped out of the judging room, the heavy door clicking shut behind her, sealing off the cacophony of uncertainty that had filled that space. The judges' faces lingered in her mind, their scrutiny and intrigue mixing into a potent cocktail of adrenaline and fear. No longer tethered to the anticipation that had gripped her moments before, she felt an exhilarating freedom begin to surge within her. As she walked down the corridor, she reflected on the conversation's undercurrent. The judges hadn't just critiqued her dish, they had unknowingly unwrapped layers of her identity, exposing insecurities she had thought long buried. Was it truly fear of failure that had held her back, or had it been a fear of fully expressing herself? The competition's energy pulsated around her, a reminder that she was now part of something larger than just her culinary offerings. She needed to channel this energy into a refined vision of her cooking, one that intricately wove together her cultural heritage, her personal experiences, and her plans for the future. With a newfound determination, Emma decided it was time to dive into her past, to weave her story into her dishes, revealing layers of flavor that would resonate not just with the judges, but with the diners who would eventually experience her food. This process wouldn't be easy, it required looking beyond mere ingredients or techniques. It would demand vulnerability, and she acknowledged that fear clung to that realization. Her heart raced as she thought about her mother's kitchen, the stories ingrained in every family recipe. Each summer spent with her grandmother had engraved memories on Emma's soul-simmering pots, the fragrant aroma of spices, the laughter that enveloped her like a warm blanket. Rediscovering those moments would provide the rich tapestry of flavors she sought to showcase, yet, she faced a dilemma. How could she share these intimate moments? Was the culinary world prepared for the hearty embrace of personal narratives embedded in dishes? Emma understood that not every chef embraced their vulnerabilities as she had just begun to. She could easily slip back into the comfort of predictable flavors that lined the industry's expectations. But if she chose that path, she could not call her cooking her own. Would that decision boil down to playing it safe, conforming to the norms that suffocated innovation? Her chest tightened with the weight of this contemplation, and with it came a surge of anxiety. Back at her workstation, she set out to experiment, her hands busy chopping, mixing, and tasting. With her mother's recipes before her, she set the stage for a radical reinterpretation. Each dish became an exploration of her heritage and aspirations, a platform for self-reflection where flavors danced with memory, hours blurred into one another as she lost herself in the intricacies of her process. The kitchen became her sanctuary, embracing her as she tried to meld her upbringing with newfound inspirations. She savored the evolution of each creation, but the whispers of doubt still echoed persistently in the back of her mind. Was she overstepping boundaries? Were the judge's previous comments a caution sign, warning her against risking too much? As she stepped back to assess her latest dish, a familiar sensation crept into her consciousness. It was an itch, half excitement, half fear, an invitation to push her narrative further. The boundaries she had initially feared now transformed into possibilities. She felt a whisper of rebellion urging her to assert the uniqueness of her culinary identity. This revelation struck hard. The moment felt potent, imbued with the clarity she craved. What if she dared to challenge not only the judges but the culinary status quo? With each innovative dish, Emma could use her heritage as both armor and inspiration. Her reverence for the past would inform her present yet not confine her to established norms. With her breath steadying, she asked herself again, was she ready to face the culinary world without apology, to wield her identity like a sharpened knife? The journey stretched ahead of her, a path guided by the stories she carried and the flavors she'd yet to discover. The door behind her creaked open, and a familiar face peered in. A fellow contestant, sparked with curiosity. "What are you working on?" They approached with a mix of admiration and skepticism. Emma's heart raced again. She was at a crossroads. Would she share her vision in a moment of solidarity, or would she retreat, holding tightly to her secrets? Would she risk vulnerability in front of a competitor? The choice loomed large, but deep down, Emma sensed the only way forward was to embrace this chance to connect and reveal her passion. The culinary world awaited, sharper than ever, and she had a voice worth hearing. Emma took a steadying breath, wrestling with the surge of adrenaline that pulsed through her veins. She could feel the weight of her decision pressing down on her. This fellow contestant, Jason, had been a friendly rival, always quick with a joke or a quip, but his question now unraveled something deeper within her. "I'm reimagining a family recipe," she said, her voice steady but low. "I want it to reflect who I am, not just the flavors, but the stories behind them." Jason's eyes widened slightly, and she could see the flicker of surprise at the candidness of her answer. In that moment, vulnerability transformed into a strength, a small shift that felt monumental. Perhaps the connection they shared could blossom into something more than competition. "That's brave," he replied, the skepticism easing from his tone. "I think that could really resonate with the judges. They love a story." Encouraged, Emma elaborated, pouring out her ideas about blending spices that represented her mother's kitchen with contemporary culinary techniques she had studied. With each word, the fear that had previously constrained her began to dissipate. The kitchen buzzed around her, but her focus remained locked on Jason's intrigued expression. As they conversed, she recognized the growing confidence that blossomed within her, an unexpected partnership forming in the heart of competition. She had opened the door to collaboration, and the taste of it was exhilarating. Maybe sharing her vision, rather than hoarding it, was its own form of authenticity. However, doubts intruded once more. Were her flavors too bold? Would they distract from the dish itself, or would they elevate an experience? Emma couldn't help but glance at her creation strewn across the counter. The vibrant colors of her reinvented dish swirled together, forming an enticing canvas of her heritage mixed with her culinary ambitions. "I was thinking of adding a twist," she said, words tumbling out as her mind traveled down a rabbit hole. "Maybe infusing the sauce with a hint of this spice my grandmother used to always add, but with a modern technique to really bring it to life. Do you think it's over the top?" Jason's brows furrowed slightly as he tasted a small spoonful of her sauce. The silence grew as he pondered, prompting Emma's heart to race anew. She held her breath, waiting for judgment. "It's bold," he finally said, setting the spoon down. "But listen, cooking is all about expressing who you are. Don't be afraid to let that authenticity shine through." His words ignited a flicker of defiance in Emma. Until this moment, she had been teetering on the edge of the culinary community's expectations, but no more. She realized that this was the moment she could truly embody her experience, interlacing elements of her life that shaped her passion into dishes that spoke her truth. As they continued to explore her dish, Emma felt the burdens of fear and doubt start to shift, replaced by conviction. This was more than just a competition, this was a chance to capture her identity and present it in a way that was completely her own. "Are you ready to take that leap?" Jason asked suddenly, breaking her reverie. His gaze pierced through her doubt, and she recognized the challenge beneath his words. "Yes," she answered, her voice stronger than she had intended. "It's time I stop hiding behind safe choices. I want to create something that is unapologetically me." Fueled by her resolve, she looked down at her workstation and felt resurgence flow through her, a visceral determination to merge her history with creativity. She would find ways to weave the laughter of her family into the very fabric of what she presented. As the day waned, Emma picked up her knife and faced her ingredients, no more hesitations. Each cut and mix became a declaration of intention. The vision crystallized before her, rich in authenticity. But just as her excitement peaked, a sudden noise permeated the kitchen, a loud crash followed by whispered concern among the other contestants. Eyes darted toward Jason, who had backed away from his station, looking alarmed. What had happened? "Let us go see," Jason urged, and together they stepped into the unforeseen drama unfolding beside them. Emma could feel the weight of anticipation gripping her once more as they approached the source of the commotion, her heart racing with both fear and curiosity. What challenge lay ahead now, and how would it test everything she had just vowed to assert? Emma sensed impending confrontation, and she was ready to challenge herself and perhaps the very competition that had pushed her to this point. As Emma and Jason moved closer to the source of the commotion, a shocking sight materialized. One of the contestants had accidentally knocked over a towering stack of dishes, sending plates crashing to the floor. The unexpected cacophony echoed in the kitchen, momentarily halting the rhythmic chopping and sizzling. It felt as if time itself had frozen, and Emma could almost hear her heart pounding wildly amidst the silence that followed. For a split second, she felt her resolve waver. Would this incident derail her progress? The safety and order she had just cultivated around her culinary vision felt suddenly precarious. She exchanged a glance with Jason, and in that brief moment, she understood they were in this together. "Let us help," Jason said, breaking her concentration. He moved instinctively towards the fallen plates, and Emma found herself following. The atmosphere buzzed with tension, but she felt a strange empowerment in this chaos. As they busied themselves sorting the broken pieces and gathering the stunned competitors, she began to process what she truly wanted to gain from this experience. "You know," she began as she lifted a shard of ceramic, "this could be a metaphor for our cooking. Sometimes things fall apart before we can rebuild them into something better." Jason's eyes met hers, illuminated with recognition. "Exactly. We can take something broken and create something beautiful." At that moment, she realized her potential extended beyond the kitchen. Each broken dish reminded her of the insecurities that had once threatened to shatter her confidence. The culinary competition was a microcosm of every risk she had ever hesitated to take. She had felt broken before, but this time, she sensed a burgeoning strength within her. She could reshape her narrative, just as they would reshape the kitchen amid this turbulent moment. With their teamwork sparking new vigor, Emma began to converse with fellow contestants, understanding their stories as they cleaned up together. Every shared laugh and nervous glance transformed the atmosphere from one of fear to cooperation. "Did you see the way that stack just leaned?" One contestant joked, laughter erupting amidst the chaos. Each chuckle rang like a beacon of solidarity, a reminder that even amidst competition, they were bound together by a shared passion for culinary art. Emma felt a kinship developing with her peers, a network of inventive minds desiring to express real emotions through food. By the time they had amassed the fragments, the incident had forged a new sense of camaraderie in the kitchen. As everyone returned to their stations, Emma felt her earlier insecurities fade. She realized she was more than just a competitor in the shadows, she held an equal footing with these talented cooks. And with that realization came further clarity. "Let us revisit your sauce," Jason suggested, breaking her contemplation. "You've inspired me to rethink some of my own flavor profiles." Emma smiled, invigorated by the change in her surroundings. "Yes, let us refine our dishes with this new energy. Let us create something that resonates with our experiences." They worked side by side, brainstorming imaginatively, every ingredient a representation of their journeys, their struggles, their successes. As they commenced this fresh venture, the competition resumed its intensity but felt entirely different. The stakes were still high, but Emma now sat poised, her confidence bolstered by the realization that she could adapt from chaos, rise through uncertainty, and embrace her authenticity in every dish she crafted. Yet, as the timer ticked ominously toward the next round of evaluations, a harsh voice broke through the kitchen chatter. "This isn't just about your stories, it's about culinary mastery. If you can't deliver, you're going home." The words hung heavy in the air, igniting a flicker of doubt. Emma's stomach tightened. Could she really push forward with her vision of authenticity in the face of such harsh reality? With her heart racing, Emma posed a critical question to herself: was she prepared to assert her culinary identity despite the looming risks? Determined, she gathered her thoughts to create something that was truly her own. But the wavering doubt still nagged at her heart. Would it be enough? The day of the competition dawned, brightly illuminating Emma's renewed courage. The previous day's chaos had been an unexpected catalyst, shifting her mindset from that of a timid contestant to a confident creator. She had taken the jagged pieces of her past and molded them into an inspiring resolve. The scattered remnants of uncertainty transformed into a solid foundation for her culinary journey. As she entered the vibrant kitchen, a sense of pulse raced through the air. Contestants were moving purposefully, focused expressions painted across their faces. Emma felt her heart drum with familiarity. This was not merely a culinary competition, but a stage upon which she could redefine herself. She had spent countless hours perfecting her dish, merging her family's legacy with innovative techniques. Today was her moment to demonstrate not only her culinary skill but her artistic authenticity. With meticulous care, she arranged her ingredients. She could hear snippets of conversations around her, the quiet intensity replaced by the buoyant hum of collaboration. But a small part of her remained afraid. A remnant of past insecurities crawled back. What if her dish didn't resonate? What if the judges failed to appreciate her unique perspective, dismissing it as amateurism, something to be laughed at once more? Yet, instead of allowing those doubts to paralyze her, she drew strength from the discomfort. Today, she would lead with purpose. When the announcer called for the contestants to present their dishes, Emma felt her stomach flip. A mixture of excitement and apprehension threatened to swallow her whole. Stepping forward with confidence, she was determined to maintain authenticity, to live boldly in her narrative. As the judges evaluated the vibrant plate before them, she felt her spirit swell, knowing she had turned her family's cherished recipes into a storytelling piece akin to her life, a mosaic of resilience and zest. I decided to integrate flavors that trace back to my grandmother, she articulated clearly, but with a contemporary twist, to honor the journey I've taken to get here. As the first bites were taken, the air filled with a charged silence. Emma held her breath, anticipating the reaction. The lead judge, a renowned culinary expert, looked up in surprise, the frown lines around his eyes smoothing as a moment of realization washed over him. This is quite unexpected. The layers of flavor build on one another beautifully. A few moments of deliberation felt like an eternity, but she knew the truth lay within her journey. Beyond just this competition, she had learned to reclaim her narrative, stepping out of the shadows of the kitchen and into the spotlight of self-acceptance. Soon, the judges began to deliberate, and each word they spoke transformed her trepidation into admiration. "Your dish tells a story," one judge remarked, "and it's both unique and relatable." Instead of sinking deeper into her fears, Emma began to feel a swell of pride within. Her fears had not overtaken her, rather, they had inspired richness in her culinary expression. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the lead judge focused on her. "Your potential is immense," he stated, a spark of recognition lighting his eyes. "You've brought something new to the table. You have earned your place here." The crowd erupted into applause. For the first time, Emma felt like more than a mere dishwasher, she was a chef who had triumphed against convention. As the competition concluded, Emma's name was announced among the top contestants, solidifying her triumph. She had not only confronted those oppressive challenges, but she had emerged victorious, truly embodying her identity as a chef. The tears of joy streamed down her face as she received heartfelt congratulations from her peers, for they, too, understood the journey that had led her to this moment. At that moment, Emma realized that indeed, she had conquered the laughter with silence, but it was the silence of admiration that would echo in her heart. The laughter of mockery had transformed into the applause, a testament to her determination, grit, and triumph. She had earned her confidence through heartfelt creation and authenticity, standing resolutely with her head held high. Emma looked towards her children, who eagerly greeted her with knowing smiles, reflecting the pride she felt within. Through all the challenges, she had not only transformed her culinary journey but had solidified her legacy for them. As she walked away, Emma understood her growth would extend beyond this competition. She had claimed not only her identity but also the courage to pursue her dreams wholeheartedly. With her heart full and a new path tracing before her, she vowed to keep authentic storytelling through her culinary art, forever banishing the shadows of doubt. Now, as you reflect on Emma's transformative journey, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm because every click helps. Comment below your reactions and theories about Emma's incredible triumph. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this powerful conclusion. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.